freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your DFS preview for this week's John Deere Classic. Joining me to break it all down, Greg DuCharme is here. And Greg, happy second half of the year because it's July 1st.
Yes. I guess in the calendar year, this would be we're in the second half. So I hope you had a great halftime. I hope you had a good talking to in the locker room and you're ready to come out of the gates hot for the fall. We're beyond the second half of the year in PGA Tour golf.
Well beyond,
which is very surprising. This is kind of, Rick, the final playoff push, surprisingly. It's July 1st, but this is a playoff push for a lot of the guys that are playing this week at the John Deere Classic that weren't in the signature events for the year. They now have 7 events left until the playoffs. So it's crunch time. It's time for these guys to make a move and get themselves into that top 70.
Well, luckily, morale is high here. We're a second half team. We're coming out and we are ready to rock and roll. A couple of announcements out of the gates. Patrick Cantlay withdrew this morning. Cam Davis withdrew this morning. Taylor Montgomery withdrew this morning. All 3 of those were in the DraftKings player pool. So when we get to that portion here in just a few minutes, it'll be worth noting. But we did get a couple of exits on Monday morning.
Yeah. Understandable, at least from Cam Davis. Understandable from Taylor Montgomery. Geez, I felt so bad watching him this weekend. It's amazing that he got himself into contention where we could see it, but I feel really bad for him and hope he can get that sorted out. Because he hit some shots you don't see on the PGA Tour and still shot some pretty darn good scores. Not on Sunday, but kept himself in the mix in this tournament. So very understandable. I hope he can get healthy soon.
Yeah, certainly rooting for that as well, because there was that one fall, Greg, that one fall where he was unstoppable.
Yeah, even the beginning, it even turned into the calendar year, right? Like, I think he played well at the Farmers and the Genesis. He had like a really good West Coast swing too, and just an incredible putter. But and I'm sure some of this is injury related. I don't know how this all interconnects, but the ball striking needs to get up to the level of the putting. If it does, he'd be a dangerous player.
Yeah, he would. Anyway, we are going to turn our attention to the golf course now. This is TPC Deere Run. Troy, if you want to pop my screen up there, I've got the scorecard, and it is the rare par 71. Greg, it plays to just under 7,300 yards. We've got a lot of history at this place because it's one of the staples on the schedule. What do we need to know? What do we need to understand heading into this week?
Well, when you think of the John Deere Classic, of course you think of the birdie fest that it is and always seems to be. So that's understandable. But when you look at the reasons why, I find some of this pretty interesting. So there are extremely wide fairways at this golf course. I mean, they're in some spots over 40 yards wide. They average about 38 yards in width, which is some of the widest on the PGA Tour. And so it makes for a pretty easy golf course to gain strokes off the tee. But what's also interesting is there's actually a pretty high missed fairway penalty. The rough can be pretty penal. So when you think wide fairways, you think, well, it's a bomber's paradise. But we haven't really seen that in the results. You think of Steve Stricker, you think of Zach Johnson, you think of guys like Lucas Glover and Sepp Straka and JT Poston, or you think of guys who are very accurate off the tee. And that's because they're avoiding that penalty of the rough. Yes. And then, so just to go the way this all pieces together, it's not a very long golf course, under 7,300 yards at par 71. There are a lot of wedge opportunities. Over 2/3 of the shots into the greens come from inside 175 yards. A lot of wedges on this golf course. So you don't need to hit it particularly far to give yourself wedges. If you're able to hit it in the fairway, you're able to give yourself scoring opportunities. And then you're faced with some of the easiest greens to make putts on the PGA Tour. We now get the pure bent grass, no more POA like we had the last couple of weeks. Now greens, which can fill it up on.
I'm just gonna, think about accurate, point A, point B guys, and I'm just gonna read you the winners here. I'm not gonna skip any of them. Sepp Straka, JT Poston, Lucas Glover. Okay. Dylan Fratelli, Michael Kim, Bryson. Then this run of Ryan Moore, Jordan Spieth, Brian Harmon, Jordan Spieth, Zach Johnson, Steve Stricker.
Yeah, it makes total sense. A couple of outliers, right? Jordan being one of them. And Jordan, while it's an outlier, was also just simply, he won in 2015.
Yes, that's the last time he's played here. And 2015 was one of the greatest seasons in modern golf.
Yeah. So he's very clearly just the best player in the field,
right?
And on an absolute heater with the putter. You think of Bryson. Well, that name sounds a whole lot different than it was when he won here, because he was a point A to point B kind of player who completely decided to change his game, because there aren't enough courses like this on the PGA Tour where point A to point B is benefit. So he changed his game completely. But you're right, Rick. Other than that, these are accurate players with elite wedge games. And I would say, for the most part, pretty darn good putters too.
Yeah. Or at least the ability to get hot. At least the ability to fill it up in times. Okay. Well, we'll continue to assess this golf course, but I want to get to the field. I want to talk about the players. I want to start at the 10s and I want to work our way down to the 6s. We are going to do just that after a quick word from our partners.
An unsub, a seasoned one, and he's leaving a calling card.
How do we find a ghost? I have a plan.
And we're back. Here is the cheat sheet, Greg, at my website, rickrungood.com. There are now 4 golfers in that $10,000 range. Patrick Cantlay was the most expensive. He is gone. So Jordan Spieth leads the way at $10,500. Sepp Straka at $10,400. Sungjae Im at $10,300. And then Aaron Rai, who was one of those runner-up finishers from last week, is $10,000 even. I'm not even going to ask you where you want to start, Greg, because we have to start with Jordan Spieth. The good is elite course history. The bad is hasn't played here since 2015. The good is he's one of the best players to ever do it. The bad is, but he's not doing it right now. Right? Where for every good we've got bad. What do you do with Jordan?
Fade him, I think. It's hard to say. There's more good and bad too. If you look at what he's been doing recently, this is some of the best that Jordan Spieth has ever driven the ball. So you consider accuracy off the tee. Well, Jordan has that right now.
Yeah.
And that definitely points you in a direction of, this could be a good week for Jordan. But what are the other things that are important that he excelled at when he won here? Well, iron play. Okay, that's been pretty much abysmal. He's spiked a couple of times, but it's been pretty bad all year. It's a very clear issue for Jordan. It was not an issue in 2013 and 2015. The putting, it's been bad all year.
Mm-hmm.
He gained 0.7 strokes at the Travelers. When's the last time he gained more than a stroke? You got to go to the Valero Texas Open in April when he gained 1 stroke. He has lost strokes routinely all year long. So I don't think this is as much of a question of how is Jordan relative to this field as much as what's Jordan's ability to go shoot low numbers consistently over 4 rounds. And I have concerns with that right now.
I agree with you. I think that even if I would have tried to find a way to convince myself on Jordan Spieth, but everything that you just laid out is absolutely accurate. There have not even been flashes. The T10 at the Valero Texas Open is his last top 10. His best finish actually inside the top 10, if we don't count that T10, was T6 in Phoenix. That was in February. And you throw in this potential lingering wrist thing. It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, I can't handle that. When you see the results the way that we've seen the results as well, because it's very clear that there's something going on with this wrist, in my opinion, and that's because he's driving it so well, and the ball's up on a tee, and it points to the wrist for me because when the ball's on the ground, he's got a problem, and I don't believe there's a problem with his golf swing that's creating all this. I think there's a problem in the way that he's approaching shots when the ball's on the ground, and I think it has to do with the wrist.
Okay, well, at least we can get some more positivity out of that 10K range. That leaves us with Sepp Straka, Sungjae Im, Aaron Rai as the three other golfers at the top of the board. How would you like to rank those guys, and how would you like to break down those three?
Probably Sepp number one. Obviously, he's the defending champion. I normally shy away from that, but I think since this win, Sepp Straka has really proven to be an extremely consistent player. He's been extremely accurate off the tee. His approach play has been so good, especially of late. And his putter, while it hasn't been red hot lately, there are definitely signs that he can still get hot with the putter. We're not in a situation where it's bad, where it's an issue. It hasn't been great. I think those are two very different things. And with his ability, the simplicity that he plays with tee to green, I think that Sepp Straka stands out as the top choice.
Yeah, he hasn't even really slowed down since that win. He's just continued to play great golf. Even recently, he's got a couple of solid finishes, T5 at both the Charles Schwab and the Memorial, top 25 at the Travelers, just doing it in a way that is very true to his DNA. That leaves us with Sungjae Im and Aaron Rai. We saw a lot of Aaron Rai last week, Greg, so we can hold off on him for just 1 second. I'm trying to be a little bit early on Sungjae Im here. And I want to get your thoughts on this because 2024 has not been great for him, but recently he's been piling up top 10 finishes. He's been driving it well all year long. It just feels like maybe we're getting back to the Sungjae of old, but I still am not super excited about it. I'm just like mildly optimistic.
Yeah. I looked at this for a while. If his record here was a little better, he has played here twice, in 2019, T26, in 2021, T47. If he had played a little better here in the past, I would probably be very excited about him. I'm mildly excited about him at this point. Like it always sticks with me how you say Sungjae shows it coming before it happens.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of evidence of that. You look at what he's done since the Wells Fargo, even since the RBC Heritage. So basically since after missing the cut at the Masters, he got a T12 and a T4, then a missed cut, then a T9 and then a T8, then a missed cut, then a T3. It's like we're getting there. We just haven't quite got our foothold entirely yet. But I think he still has the ability to go win this golf tournament. So I'm fine with him.
Sorry, Greg. That leaves us with Aaron Rai here, who had himself a very close call last week, finished runner up, and this run has dated back to the Zurich Classic. He's got a handful of top 20 finishes, with the Rocket Mortgage being his best. You talk about the ability to hit fairways and greens, and then potentially see if you can get a hot putter. That's really the question. If you can get any putting performance like the Rocket Mortgage or the U.S. Open, his last two starts for Aaron Rai, you think he's going to be in the mix because of how good his tee to green game is.
Yeah, we talked about this last week too. Normally, I wouldn't suspect Aaron Rai to play really well in a birdie fest, but I'm getting to the point now where I think he's very playable. In fact, my second option in this range, and probably my second option overall on the whole board. And the reason for that is, yes, the ball striking has been extremely consistent. I think this golf course will suit his game, tee to green, better than the Rocket Mortgage. I don't think it was as big of an advantage to be pepper and fairways and greens at the Rocket Mortgage as it will be this week at the John Deere Classic. So I think he has a little more of an edge there this week. The other thing is with the putter, he's gained strokes putting in his last 2 starts. It's not random. He started working with John Graham, who's a great putting coach on the PGA Tour, used to work with JT on his putting and works with a ton of players on the PGA Tour. They started working on this simple thing like green reading. And that new kind of visual could be the spark that leads to a completely different player in Aaron Rai.
Yeah, and we see that all the time. Guy gets something, a new thought, a new visual, and things go well. It might not go well forever, but they usually can keep it going for a decent period of time. So you've got some pretty good options in that 10K range. If you want to go down to the 9K range and start there, you could do that. The names are Maverick McNeely, Davis Thompson, Denny McCarthy, Jason Day, Keith Mitchell, JT Poston, and Sam Stevens. Already, Greg, we are seeing the drop off, right? It's not that these guys are good. In fact, I like a lot of these guys, but this is going to skew a little bit weaker, and we're going to have to find those diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, which I think there are. This range could be a little tricky. I mean, I like Maverick McNeely and Davis Thompson, who are right at the top of this range. McNeely seems like he's hitting the ball a little bit better. His iron play has shown much better signs this year. And of course, I like what he can do on the greens. McNeely's also played really well here before. So you look, he's got a T8 in 2022, a T18 in 2021, T44 in 17. So he has some pretty good pedigree here, which I like. It's not, I don't know if I'd be jumping to start my lineup with Maverick McNeely though.
I think you need a guy in the 10K. I think there's a pretty big difference between specifically Sung Jae, Aaron Rai, and Sepp Straka compared to these guys.
Yeah, I think you're right. So you want to go really top heavy with McNeely and maybe Rai, that you could do that. But Davis Thompson's worth talking about, I think, too, Rick. I see you just pull his page up.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. It's not necessarily the style of course that I would pin on Davis Thompson. Last week, a much better fit just with, without even doing any research. But I think this play has been simply too good to ignore. And it can certainly work at TPC Deer Run.
I agree. And I feel like we've spent a lot of oxygen on Davis Thompson. He's got a great pedigree. He's playing the best golf of his career, and it's showing up in the results. I don't think we need to go much deeper than that. The rest of this range, I don't know what to do with. Poston's a past winner. His game has not been as sharp. Keith Mitchell is going to gain like 8 strokes ball striking, and he's going to lose about 7 with the putter. Denny McCarthy might do the opposite. I actually like Sam Stevens a lot, Greg, but I was expecting him to be like $7,200, not $9,000. I mean, he made a Corn Ferry start like 2 starts ago. I don't know how he got to 9,000. So even he, who I just before the salaries came out was very interested in, I was a little annoyed at how expensive he was.
Yeah, it's annoying. And you may skip him because of that. He was the 3rd name I wrote down in this range. But you look at this, and if you can look past the fact that he played in a Corn Ferry Tour event, the results have been great. I mean, it's a T4 at the Zurich Classic, a T10 at the Myrtle Beach Classic, T14 at the Canadian Open. That Corn Ferry Tour event, Kansas Wichita Open, tied 2nd, and then tied 10th last week at the Rocket Mortgage. This has been phenomenal play. The putter has shown the ability to get very hot. He's been driving the ball really well. I agree, he's probably overpriced, but it could still be worth it.
The good news might be that nobody plays him. It's not like he is a household exciting name. He's surrounded by past winners and popular guys, and then Nick Dunlap, who's playing better. I think he's probably $1,500 too expensive. Maybe he just comes in at 6%, and I just bite the bullet and take him.
Yeah, at that point, it could be worth it. Look, I think when you look at the pricing from this point down, there's a lot of similarity, in my opinion, right? There's question marks. There's some guys that have done things really well. And all of a sudden we're getting like there's a big fall off to the 9K range. From there, I don't know if there is that big of a fall off.
Interesting.
You know, of course you get it in the 6K, but it kind of levels out. Like we're going to see some guys in the 7K range you'll look at and say, well, what's different about him and Sam Stevens?
Yeah.
You know, that could be a deterrent, but at the same time, maybe it doesn't matter. Right? You pick the guys you want to ignore the price, pick the guys you want on your team, and mix it in with one of the 10K guys.
All right, show's over. It doesn't matter. Just from here on out, just pick whatever. Just start clicking.
Yeah, right. That's what. The price doesn't matter. The performance matters. That's what we're here for.
I do agree with you that a lot of these guys, if we just scrambled up some of the salaries, most people wouldn't.
Be hard to tell a difference.
Yeah, it'd be hard to tell the difference. Okay, we're going to continue this conversation. We've got a PGA Tour winner this year at the top of the 8K range. We're going to go down to the 7s, get you the 6s and some value. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. And we're back. That 8K range starts with Nick Dunlap. Then you get Kevin Yu, team no putt. Lucas Glover, Luke Clanton, the amateur who made noise last week. Eric Cole, Mark Hubbard, Seamus Power. And then we rounded out with Adam Svensson and Bo Hostler. 9 golfers, Greg. 9 of them in the $8,000 range. What do you want to do?
Yeah, it's a tough range. I love what Nick Dunlap has done. I don't love the golf course for him. So I'm not jumping head over heels for him. I don't think I can play Kevin Yu because of the historic putting issues. I can't go there. Lucas Glover hasn't been putting well. So the first guy I got to that I actually like is Mark Hubbard.
Yeah. And
he could really be like the pale play of the week, which I don't love at 8,400, but we don't care about prices. So it's been a lot of made cuts, not a lot of spectacular performances. I think the putter and the approach play is there. It hasn't been great, but his record here is really what made me think that we could see an uptick this week.
Do you know how many cuts Mark Hubbard has missed in 2024?
What? 1?
0. It's perfect for the calendar year.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
T6 at this event last year, T13 2 years ago. He made the cut, finished T41 the year before that in 2021. He did have a couple missed cuts, but those date back to 2017 and 2016. I'm with you here on Hubbard. I will also tell you this. I'll tease my newsletter a little bit, Greg, if you don't mind.
Please do.
rickrungood.com/newsletter. It's free, 100% free. So I was looking, we're at the halfway point, and I was like, okay, how can I find valuable, like, I want to see who's valuable in the first 6 months. And the way that I did it is I looked at how many fantasy points they gained, so compared to the average that week, and their average salary. And the big 3 names, this will be in my newsletter tomorrow: Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Mark Hubbard.
Wow, he was 4th.
Yes, so he is the first golfer. I'll pull it up. He was below $8,500 for his average salary. His average salary this year has been $7,217. He has returned nearly 3 fantasy points better than average for every $1,000 that you've spent on him. So it goes Scotty, Xander, Rory, Hubbard, Hideki, Shane Lowry, Mav McNeely are the top 6.
Holy cow. So yeah. McNeely and Hubbard, the only 2 in this field.
Correct. Yes. There's a couple. If you keep going, you get to Davis Thompson, you get to Keith Mitchell eventually. But the idea just being that you know, and there's obviously better ways to do this, but salary, because it is tied pretty closely to the odds. It speaks about sentiment. It speaks to how people feel about him, how the public feels. And to me, it just says he is routinely outperforming his expectations.
Yeah, he's underrated.
Yes.
And you know what the other thing is, Rick, too, and I don't know exactly how you looked at this, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the consistency, the fact that he's getting 4 rounds every single time he tees it up,
Yes.
it gives him a chance to pile on more points.
Exactly. Yeah, it's exactly right. When half the field only gets 2 rounds and he's constantly getting 4, yeah, it goes a long way. And like you said, the history here has been splendid. Yeah. So Hubbard was there. I do want to circle back because I probably, based on your comments, I might like Nick Dunlap more than you do. You said that you don't like him for this golf course. Let's talk through that. What's the problem here at TPC Deer Run?
Well, he's too long, maybe not accurate enough off the tee. I mean, I like what he's done with his approach play. I think he's proven to be a pretty good wedge player and can be a hot putter. But I guess if there's one worry, it would just be the accuracy off the tee.
Yeah, I got you.
You think it's off base?
No, I have no idea. I mean, he turned pro in January. We're gonna find out. But I do agree with you. You're 100% spot on, and the stats bear this out. You hit a lot of fairways here, but if you miss the fairway, you take a pretty significant penalty.
Yeah. And that's something Nick Dunlap made a couple of big mistakes last week. It seems like his good stuff is absolutely good enough he already won on tour, but to win routinely on tour, it seems like the thing that holds him back is the big mistakes. And surprisingly, contrary to what the winning scores are at this golf course, I do think there's an opportunity for big numbers out here, which crush your chances.
Another amateur, Luke Clanton, top 10 last week. Do you have? He might be too long and too like that. Does he get hemmed in by this place a little bit too? We don't have a lot of information on him.
No, I don't think you get hemmed in. I think it's wide enough where you can do it. It just doesn't happen very often. Here's the Luke Clanton. I also wrote down on my list.
Okay.
And I just feel like there's something about the young guys getting their start here that, I mean, when you read the list of winners, it's really just Bryson and Spieth, that they're so good that they're going to win in a field like this.
Right.
And I wonder, and I don't want to miss out on that. So while I don't love really anybody, I really like Mark Hubbard. I'm not sure what his winning capabilities are. I think his capabilities of playing well are extremely high. That's why I like him. Luke Clanton could play well and miss the cut, but I think he could also win as an amateur, like he showed us last week. So I find that to be fascinating. It makes it for a hard play, but I don't mind it. I could see looking back on this in 5 years saying, "Oh, I told you could see this coming."
Yeah, like the Bryson one and the Spieth ones, like they aged really well.
Yeah, they're Hall of Famers,
right?
Oh yeah, that makes sense that they won the John Deere Classic,
right? Is there a Hall of Famer lurking in this field that we don't know about?
Yeah, well, that's the fun part, right? Maybe it's Luke Clanton, maybe it's Neil Shipley, maybe it's Nick Dunlap. I do think even I would include Nick Dunlap in this. I think those guys are worth taking a chance on. I don't know if I'd put all 3 of them in the same lineup, but if you feel strongly about one of them, I would not shy away because of a lack of data. I think with what they've shown us already, they've shown us that they're really good and they're going to be PGA touring professionals for quite some time.
Speaking of Neil Shipley, he has $7,500. He is smack dab in the middle of this next range here. It starts with Ben Griffin, Patrick Rogers, and Adam Schenk. I already mentioned Shipley. You also can get Lee Hodges or Andrew Putnam in the middle of this range, and it's a pretty big one because it goes all the way down to Chan Kim, Chesson Hadley, Hayden Springer, amongst others. So let's find some value here, Greg.
Okay. Now this highlights perfectly what I said. It's almost like they got past Keith Mitchell and just scrambled everybody else.
Just scrambled the names.
Right? Because why is Neil Shipley what is he, $1,000 cheaper than Luke Clanton? $1,100 cheaper than Luke Clanton?
Yeah, and he has beaten him like every chance he's had, or finished just a couple spots behind him.
Yeah, well, it just doesn't make any sense. But that being said, yes, Neil Shipley is a very playable option. I'm sure they didn't scramble these, so they must have some reason that I don't know about. Maybe that does give an edge to Luke Clanton, but I think Neil Shipley is the real deal. And I think he's going to show up and perform. So yeah, I like him too, but this range really has some names we can go through and get into, where I see my lineups having a lot of 7K guys. Yeah. So one of them is Andrew Novak.
Yeah.
He's been a favorite of ours. He's also 7,500.
He's coming back. He's coming. He's coming.
Right. You got the T14 at the Canadian Open, T20 last week, gained strokes approaching the green in both, gained 6 strokes putting last week. He's starting to feel it, starting to get a little hot. I think Andrew Novak's a great value at 7,500. It sounds like you agree.
I do. Yes. I think that so long term, he's the type of golfer that we generally like. He's a good ball striker. He's historically been a very bad putter, but he's gotten a lot better with the flat stick over the course of the last year or so. And it's been a little bit inconsistent. It hasn't been horrible. I mean, he's only missed 2 cuts this year he's missed, or 2 cuts since Phoenix he's missed, but it's just a lot of, 25th to 50th. But now we're getting his 2 best finishes are his most recent 2. We're seeing signs of both better ball striking and better putting. We just got to kind of get them together. And this is going to be like the weakest field he's played in a while. So yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I do too. The Wofford man, get him in your lineup. Could pair nicely with Neil Shipley. So we talked about Shipley. He's also on my list. Then we go down to Joel Dahmen, who I'm rather excited about in a week like this. I mean, look what he's done. So at T56 at the Charles Schwab, T10 at the RBC Canadian Open, T25 last week are his last 3 starts. But if you go back even to Myrtle Beach, where he finished T59, you're seeing signs of improvement all over the place. Last 3 events, he's gained strokes both approaching the green and off the tee significantly. 2 out of his last 4, he's gained significant strokes putting. And it just feels like things are starting to click. Like he's got his golf swing in a place where he can go play golf. And that could bode really well for him here at TPC Deere Run. He's missed 4 cuts at TPC Deere Run. The one time he made the cut, 2018, he finished tied 2nd. I think we could be heading towards a week like that if he's feeling it the way it looks like he's feeling it.
Yeah, stats are coming back around after kind of a little slump there, but things are starting to get better for Joel, who's, his DNA is play out of the fairway. He's not gonna beat you by hitting it past you and then kind of make up for some deficiencies from there. So yeah, I think that's interesting. There was somebody else I saw that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned. I cannot. If I say this name, we might go on a 30-minute tangent. Michael Kim. Michael Kim did the unthinkable here.
He did.
In 2019?
I will confirm 18,
where he won by 9 shots.
He shot 27 under.
And then he missed something like 53 out of his next 60 cuts. And the cuts that he did make
were no cut events.
And he finished last.
Yeah.
However, he's playing better golf, Greg. Goes back to the corner. Yeah, much better. I mean, we got T14 at the Canadian Open, T20 at Myrtle Beach, played well in Punta Cana.
Yeah. Oh, he is like playing golf out there now. He was lost for a while. He's not lost, which is a great sign. I think the win here probably makes you think course history is better than it is. I don't think it's great. It's a great week.
Yeah.
Not a great course history in total. How much of that is just the form that he had? I don't know. So I could definitely play him. He would be a candidate for the Pale Play of the Week and a very good one. I think he's been making cuts, like you said. If he had made a few more cuts, he would probably be in that Mark Hubbard territory, where you're getting a lot of value every time you play him because he's typically not very expensive and has performed above expectations many weeks. So I think he's playable.
Anybody else in the 7K range that we should discuss before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got 3 more guys.
Oh,
that I find interesting.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, Johnny Vegas.
Okay, 7,200.
7,200. Absolute killer off the tee. And I'm looking at it like, okay, this is looking pretty good. His iron play has been great lately as well. He finished T25 at the Rocket Mortgage, T27 at the Canadian Open. What really surprised me, Rick, was his record at the John Deere Classic. He was T11 in 21, T37 in 19. And then he played a while back. He has also a T3 in 2014. It seems like a pretty good course for him. And what he's done in his last 4 starts here is putt really well.
Really well.
And so I'm wondering if, while his putting has been a little weak, he did show a really nice putting performance at the RBC Canadian Open. Maybe he just needs to get up north and the putter starts to click. I think he's a viable option at 72. All right, 2 more, really 1 more. The 1 more is Ben Silverman.
$7,100.
$7,100. Last 4 events, he's gained 3 or more strokes putting, which I love. You look at what he's done with his iron play. His last 2 weeks, he's gained 3 or more strokes approaching the green. He has 4 consecutive top 35 finishes, including a T17 last week and a T16 in Myrtle Beach. I think Ben Silverman's playing great golf and needs to be considered.
Yeah, that's a lot better than I imagined it was going to be. And he is routinely 1% or lower owned. So you're going to get a good deal. Well, now I'm curious, who was the other guy that you abandoned last minute there?
Yeah, 7,100, Chandler Phillips. I didn't really abandon him. I was big on Chandler Phillips last week, and he came and tied 67th. So that stings a little bit. But the reason I liked him last week is he's a really good wedge player, and perhaps that could continue. He's been putting well last couple weeks. I'm wondering if this is me wanting to go back to him because he hurt. I don't want to be a week early on him and just ignore him the next week. So I at least wanted to get his name out there so we could say on Sunday, we talked about him on Monday.
I like going back to situations like this. T12, T10. He didn't play horrible. Alex Noren missed the cut. Tom Kim missed the cut. Steven Yeager missed the cut. At least he made the cut.
He shot 68, and then it was like 72, 73, 72.
Yeah.
It was just
I'm not going to beat him up.
Disappointed.
I'm not going to beat him up for that.
Yeah, I don't think you have to. I think those reasons, the reasons that I liked him last week still stand, and he's a viable option. There's just a little scar tissue there with me.
The super values, the $6,000 range. The top, Alex Smalley, David Skins, Kevin Tway. The middle, Brandon Wu, Carl Yuan. The min-priced, Nick Watney, Kevin Kisner, etc., etc. I hate it.
I got a bunch of guys that are playable.
Wow, I have one.
I have a bunch. You may be surprised when you see this.
All right.
Maybe some of my analysis is just flat out wrong. You tell me.
I don't know.
First and foremost, David Skins.
He can get scorching hot.
He is way underpriced.
Yeah.
He just got a bad deal in the Scrambler this week.
Bad scramble.
Bad scramble, but it's great for us. 6,900, scorching hot with his iron play. Kyle and I talked about him last week. So David Skins needs to be played. He finished T17, much better than Chandler Phillips. So I think David Skins has everything that it takes to play great here. It would not surprise me if he won this event. And he's 6,900. Now, from here, it would surprise me if the rest of these guys won. Okay. It would not surprise me if they played well. Patton Kizzire, who is also 6,900. See, this is part of the scrambler. There's just a million guys at 7,000 flat, 6,900. They're all the same.
They're all the same person.
Patton Kizzire is starting to show signs. T23 in Punta Cana, T28 at the Zurich with a partner. It's his partner's fault that he didn't play better. T24 at the CJ Cup, T10 in Myrtle Beach, miscut at the Canadian Open, T20 last week. The ball striking is coming back. He's starting to look comfortable out on tour again. Has a good pedigree as a PGA Tour player in general. I think it's a playable spot for him.
Outside of 2023, which he was kind of in the doldrums, he's played well here. T16, T11, T30, T25.
Very much underpriced, very playable.
That's a good one. I'm going to star his name. Okay. Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. Troy Merritt. Okay. 6,800. T17 last week. Big time candidate for Pale Play of the Week. A number of, I think it's 4 out of the last 5. He's gained strokes approaching the green, although mildly. Here's the interesting thing about Troy Merritt. If you look at his record here, there's a lot of putting issues, right? Even though he came in tied 17th last year, he lost over a stroke putting. And the thing about these putting issues is that he had the yips and he's kind of solved it. And I think he tends to play well in these on these kind of bent grass greens like we saw last week. So I'm not as excited about Troy Merritt as Kizzire and Skins, but I think he's absolutely an option at 6,800.
Okay. Yeah, that is kind of strange to see the lackluster putting at this event, at least recently, because I always think Troy Merritt's, very good putter.
Yeah. Well, he had the putting yips. So I think he was struggling in general. And that's why I think that's the reason why. But he's gone to a claw grip. I think he's got it solved. A very quick conversation on the putting yips. Let's go down to Patrick Fishburne. Look, check this out. This is a great little profile. Okay, it's a small window. He's a rookie on the PGA Tour. He's gained strokes off the tee every week since the Valspar. Talking about the end of March. You've seen 2 out of the last 3 weeks. Again, really small sample size, but in both Myrtle Beach and at the Rocket Mortgage, gainer approaching the green. We've seen a couple this is very common with PGA Tour rookies. We've seen some up and down putting performances, but I'm liking what I'm seeing out of the results. T4 at the Zurich,
which he carried his partner that week.
Carried his partner totally. I was going to, if he had a better partner, he would have won. Rory and Lowry have nothing on Patrick Fishburne.
No, this is very good. I mean, this is at least what you like to see, which is, yes, sometimes he's going to cough up 4 strokes putting or whatever, but at least he can go out and flush. At least he can go out and have a positive week. At least he can go out and finish top 20 at a full field PGA Tour event.
Yeah, he's done everything. Right. I think he got through the I'm going to miss every cut that I play in phase.
Yeah.
Which is, that early portion of the PGA Tour season, maybe some harder golf courses, some hard cuts to make. I think he's starting to feel comfortable. And so it's playable at 6,700. All right. I got 2 more.
Okay.
Ben Coles. Feels like
66.
He's 66.
Yeah.
Okay. Feels like there could be potentially something sparking with him. 3 out of his last 4, 5 out of his last 7 approaching the green. He's gained strokes. Putting in his last 4 in a row and 5 of his last 6.
Very good putter.
Very, very good putter. Now, what tournament was this where Taylor Pendrith won? Was that Byron Nelson?
Nelson, yeah.
Made a total mess. But I think he's shown that there's a lot of upside with his game, especially when it comes to attacking holes, attacking flag sticks. I think he can do it.
I love the way he rolls it, and you're right. He's giving himself. I like this little profile where it's, left to right, east to west, the putting and the approach. Like give me those.
That's the birdie recipe.
Who's
right.
last?
All right, last but not least. For some reason, I'm preparing. I got to Ben Coles and said, I don't think I can go any lower. And I had this vision of Rick Gehman asking me, how low would you go?
Yeah, how low would you go?
And I just wanted to be prepared for that question, which you've never asked me before.
Hey, be prepared for every possible.
For some reason, it popped in my head and I panicked. I started doing deep dives on everybody down here in the low 6K range. I came up with one guy. I think this is as low as I would go. Ryan McCormick.
Wow. He's 6,300.
6,300. It's an interesting. Check out the profile. It's pretty interesting. T31 last week, T51 on the Corn Ferry Tour at the BMW Charity Pro-Am. Missed a couple of cuts. T4 in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
T41 at the Byron Nelson. And in all these measured events, in Myrtle Beach, he gained 5 strokes approaching the green. Gained a shot last week. In all of these measured events, his last 4, he's gained strokes with the putter, sometimes over 5. Like, I think there's a little something where he could get a little hot and could give you a top 25 finish out of nowhere.
That's a good one. Yeah. Gained over 5 strokes putting in Myrtle Beach, gained 3.5 at the Byron Nelson, gained over 3 just last week at the Rocket Mortgage.
Yeah, I like seeing, especially for these young guys that don't have a ton of experience. I think it's more important to see deep green, that really dark green potential in events like this than consistency across the board as they kind of find their way. It leads you to believe that there's the potential of a really good week.
Here's the one that I'll throw into the conversation.
How low would you go?
Right here, $6,400, Harry Higgs. Harry Higgs has won twice since May.
Yep.
He wins.
He's won it. If he gets in a playoff, Lord save those he's playing against because he's making birdie.
Back-to-back wins on the Corn Ferry in May. Misses the cut at the Charity Pro-Am, then misses the cut at the U.S. Open. I'm not going to crush him for winning hangover plus Pinehurst. Now he's back on track. T4 2 starts ago. T26 last week. Harry's getting ready for his return to the PGA Tour.
It looks like it. It really is. Is there a Corn Ferry Tour event this week? I don't know. Maybe not, because he's close to a Battlefield promotion here.
No, there's not.
Okay, so that's why he's playing.
The Battlefield promotion, for those who don't know, would be if you get 3 wins in one Corn Ferry Tour season, you're immediately elevated and get your tour card.
Yes. When he's had his tour card. So I totally understand. This isn't an unknown commodity. He knows what it's like out on the PGA Tour. It's a fine play.
Last guy to do it. Last guy to get the Battlefield promotion.
Cam Young was close. Did he? I don't think he actually did it though.
He didn't. Okay, so the guy that I thought was the most recent is the second most recent. So someone has done it more recent than I thought that they did. If you get this, I'd be really impressed.
I don't think I have it.
It was the long season. It was the 2020 season that went from 2020 to 20. They had like 60 events in that season.
Echevarria?
Oh man, no, but like I feel like you're not that far off.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mito Pereira.
Oh, wow. What a quick rise and fall for Mito Pereira.
Yeah. Okay, this is the one that I remember. I thought this guy was the last Wesley Bryan.
Played well last week.
Carlos Ortiz did it. Those are the last 3. So since Since 2010, there's been 3 guys to do it. Harry Higgs one more away.
One away. He could do it. But it's not going to happen this week. Maybe he just wins on tour and bypasses the Battlefield promotion.
That's one way to do it.
Fastest way to the PGA Tour.
Just win on the PGA Tour.
Yeah. That's all you got to do.
All right, Greg, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Well, I'm looking forward to the week. I know we got a busy week ahead with a bunch of coverage of it. I'm really looking forward to it. It's always fun to see these guys you just see how good these players really are. And I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully the guys on our list fill up the top of the leaderboard and fill up your pockets or your DraftKings daily fantasy account.
Oh, that would be very nice. I'm looking forward to that. But for now, I'm going to say big thanks. Producer Troy does all the hard work behind the scenes. That right there, it's Greg DuCharme. You can find him on Twitter at @TheRealGFD, and you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.